Thank you for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist, an episodic series that explores the art practice and the personal vision that guides artists. On today's episode, we're very proud to have Emily Severson, who's completing her thesis in architecture at North Dakota State University. We invited her here today to speak about her research and the creation of artifacts in preparation for her defense. Emily's work is an exploration of homelessness through a combination of materials that challenge the stigmas that disconnect the person from the society. Her exploration touches on issues of understanding, fragility, stability, and the spaces we occupy that shape our identity. I'm Anthony Ferris, and this is 10 Minutes with the Artist. Emily, thank you so very much for joining us on 10 Minutes with the Artist. I was curious how using sort of used or like lived in items contributes to your theme versus using maybe something new.
So I was trying to use, specifically the used shoe. I was trying to argue that a shoe is a person's threshold to the world. It sits between them and their world. And that also plays with the dualities of my project. The old palette versus the new wood is kind of the old life, or it just plays on these choices that I want to portray through, so that these people, they can make a choice to either remain homeless or to not become homeless.
Okay. Is there like any specific power that's inherent to something old versus new, or does that matter?
I think it was just playing on those dualities. And it was just the idea that of using specifically a used shoe, you can kind of picture somebody in it, and you can picture their decision between that.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. So it's not necessarily what the person was doing with the item, but the viewer's sort of interpretation or imagination. There's this precariousness that happens with the structure, and I was curious how that sort of design was essential to the way that people understand your concept.
So again, it's playing off of this idea of a choice for this specific group of people, and that it's kind of a precarious choice. There's a very fine line for them between being homeless and not being homeless, and that's their choice. And doing that within the structure kind of makes you feel that tension within yourself, because you don't know if it's going to tip, if it's going to fall over.
Is there a lack of understanding of homelessness that's conveyed in your piece?
I think what I like to show through that was that some people actually choose to be homeless, that is their choice in life, that they would prefer that toward that sort of transient life. And it's not saying that it's a bad way, but it's just saying that this is another way of life that people can live. And if they choose to not live that way, they can, but also we need to accept that may be what they want to do.
Are there any specific stories or things that sort of informed your work versus, say, just research? Just kind of curious about the human connection or condition in relation to your understanding of this idea of homelessness.
I guess I read Willem Flusser's, and he was talking about homelessness. To him was the idea that it wasn't that he didn't specifically live in a home or whatever. It was that he didn't feel connection to the place because he kept on moving around so much. It's just the idea, again, that there isn't one true way to live, and it's just interesting to see what everybody's idea of home is.
Well, that sort of follows pretty well with this next question, which is I was wondering what is necessary to be missing for someone to be considered homeless.
I guess what we consider is that they don't have material possessions, or they don't have a specific place to live or sleep every night. There's also that idea that somebody may not feel at home anywhere because they're constantly moving, that they don't feel like they're connected to any specific place ever.
How does our outlook, what is our sort of outlook of that, because they're missing that common thing, that we have.
Yeah, we see that it's less than, that because they don't have these things, it's less than, but actually it allows a freedom for them. They don't have to worry about, like, who's going to take over after my house if I go on this trip or whatever. They can just move as freely as they want to.
Okay. So maybe our traditional sort of ideas of somebody being homeless and being underneath a bridge is too narrow of a concept.
Yeah. It's just the idea, again, that there isn't one specific idea of home, and that there's just a multitude of levels of what somebody considers home, because some people would actually consider being in our traditional home as being very limited compared to their idea.
Okay. At the very end of our interview, we like to ask a few questions about sort of your creative practice. So I was wondering what time of day you feel like you're most creative.
I think in the morning, just because even in our studio situation, there's less people there in the morning. They're more there at the night, so I can be by myself and I can just kind of get into a process.
Okay. Do you listen to any sort of music or anything like that while you're creating?
Yeah, I listen to Pandora the whole time.
Okay. Is there anything specifically?
Disney or System of a Down.
Okay. Either or. Is there anything that you're reading right now?
I'm reading the third book in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon.
Okay. And what was the most challenging thing about working with the medium that you chose?
I think the sheer weight of it, that it's very difficult for me to move it, so I usually have to have help. And I have to have help constructing it as well, so I think that was the difficulty.
Okay. Did that affect the way that you sort of viewed your concept at all?
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing that it limited me, that I really wanted to bring it out into the world and like see it interact with the people that are around it, but it did limit me on movement.
Okay. And how did you know that you were finished with your piece?
I don't know if you can ever be finished, but I think it played off of most of the dualities that I wanted to encompass. So.
Okay. And I guess my last question would be, what's next for you?
What's next? To finish my thesis.
Okay.
And then find a job.
Okay. Well, best of luck. I'd like to thank our guest, and I'd also like to thank you for your time and your interest in the professional practices and the creative explorations happening here at North Dakota State University. So thank you, and for everyone here at the Memorial Union Gallery, keep creative.